Dinesh, let's talk about this study. This is a huge partnership and a really cool study where you're utilizing AI, pilots, and all the power of Google. So you're with Google. Can you give me a little background on contrails and, first of all, how they form, and then also the role that they're playing in climate change?
Contrails are those thin, wispy clouds you often see behind aircraft. They're actually nothing more than ice clouds that form under certain temperature and humidity conditions. The really interesting thing is that they have a large impact on our climate. Recent studies have shown that they could be up to 35% of aviation's total warming impact. So that's why we teamed up with American Airlines and Breakthrough Energy to see what we could do about it.
That was new information to me too, which is very cool that you can adjust flight paths to avoid contrails. That's something else I didn't know could be done. So tell me about the study and how it was formed and what was done during the study.
The study was a joint undertaking, again, between American Airlines, Breakthrough, and Google Research. So our goal was to see if we could use AI and very talented pilots to tackle, again, 35% of aviation's warming. So our first study, we believe, is the world's first statistically significant and verified reduction in contrails. So it was 70 live flights over about 6 months, and we verified contrail reduction using satellite imagery. We think it's the first proof point that contrail avoidance may be a new and cost-effective tool.
What were the factors here that kind of went into deciding the flight paths?
These contrail likely zones, again, contrail formation is something that's been studied, for decades. So there are actually amazing studies from World War II that look at contrail formation during World War II. The climate piece is what's really new. And the way that it works is we actually create these forecasts for contrail likely zones specifically. So we take our kind of AI-based approach of pull in this large data set of satellite images, pull in weather data, pull in those weather forecasts, and then pull in flight data. And we basically create this forecast that the pilots then have on their iPad so they can see where we believe they would form a contrail if they flew through. And then they make their decisions, obviously in the safety envelope. They make their decisions of, can I go above it? Can I go below it? Can I avoid that region? And that's what we actually did in the test. So Google used these AI capabilities to generate these forecast maps, and then the pilots at AA were able to route around them.
How did you find out if this actually reduced contrail? Was there somebody looking out the back window? How do you measure this?
Yeah, that's actually a really, really large area of research in its own. So that's one part of the study that we're really proud of, is how we actually verified the reduction. So we use satellite imagery to do that. Specifically, again, 70 flights, all in North and South America, basically, or I should say North and Central America. So we had the luxury of having NASA's GOES 16 satellite constellation. So what we can do is, using that satellite, we can combine that with our AI algorithms, and we can actually detect clouds from those satellite images the same way that we do with cats in a YouTube video, or basically anything from an image. So that's how we proved it. So we would look at these satellite images and see, flight by flight, did we see a contrail created by that flight or not?
What's next? How will this data be used? Is there any plans for American Airlines to put this into practice, or has there been talk with the powers that be to actually reroute flights to make this usable?
We have work to do. So some of the things that we're really excited to test next, I would say 3 things. One is that we're always improving Google Research is always improving their AI tools. So we continue to plan to do that because we can always do better. Two, in collaboration, again, with our partners, is really figuring out, okay, you're telling me we can reduce contrails by 54%. That's awesome. But how do we target the most warming contrails? So there's a whole set of science that we know nighttime contrails are the most warming. So we're really excited to look into how we would target those. And then third, again, from the Google Research perspective, our plan is to openly publish tools and data sets that can help everyone in the industry do it. So we think the only way that we do this in a science-backed way is if we're open and the entire industry participates.
You may not have an answer for this, but I'm curious if, like, anecdotally, did any of the American Airlines pilots have stories of, like, added benefits to these different flight paths? Like, was there less turbulence, or was it a smoother flight in other ways?
It's tough to say with the 70 flights. Most of the feedback that we got was actually related to how similar it was to avoiding turbulence. So that was what we got, and no impact to safety, customer, passenger comfort. That was most of the feedback we got, but that's a really good question.
Did they say if it added more flight time? Any inconvenience?
So it didn't add flight time, as far as we know, but again, it was a relatively small set of 70 flights. So I think that's a question that we're tracking. So that's one of those key metrics that we're certainly going to track as we do and think about future trials.
Okay, so Google's kind of getting into this AI machine learning world. And I'm really curious about kind of future efforts. Will there be future efforts when it comes to climate change mitigation and other studies like this? Anything in the works that you can tell us about?
Google is certainly committed to sustainability, and specifically we have tons of interesting and really promising projects within Google Research on how we might combine AI and data to tackle some of these big climate challenges. A lot of them are actually public, so I might refer you to our website and give you materials afterwards. But
cool.
The thing I would say is that we are certainly committed and excited. I think it's a bit cheesy, but I'll say it anyway.
I love cheese.
I'll say it anyway. Because we get asked all the time, why in the world is Google working on this? I thought Google was a search engine and an ads company. Like, why are you doing this? And I think really it's become evident that our planet needs really large climate solutions. So I'm based in Austin, Texas. It's been 105 degrees every day for like 4 weeks now. And then we're seeing these devastating wildfires across the globe. So I think that's where contrail avoidance is potentially one of these exciting big climate solutions. But then generally, I think AI and technology has a big role to play in creating some of these new and innovative climate solutions. And that's what we're really excited about in Google Research. So we have a team committed to just working on that intersection of AI and climate problems.
Yeah, what's cool about this solution too is it's not really a total pain in the butt. It's not expensive. It's like you said, they're not even adding flight time.
Well, first of all, it's 35% of aviation's warming, and that's relatively new science, right? So things are evolving, and we're learning a lot every day. But that's a huge chunk. And to have a solution where you can just drop it in to the existing kind of infrastructure, like you don't need a new plane, you don't need to train a new role, right? Like there are already folks in the aviation industry that have decades and decades of experience of avoiding turbulence and things that look very similar to contrail avoidance. So that's the part that's exciting to us is this is a solution that I think happens in years, not decades. And that's really, really exciting, especially given it could be 1% of human-caused warming.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
The one other thing I would add is the other interesting part of contrail avoidance specifically related to meteorology is contrails are highly dependent on relative humidity with respect to ice. So that science, the physical science, is well understood. So there's a whole field of how we might improve that, and how, again, we're using AI to try to augment the capabilities that we have today, but then what does, a 5-10 year time horizon look like for weather forecasts in this space? So